Warehouse 22. Number 1. Darkness. 4 years later. I walk in darkness, the sound of wind shaking chained fences bristling through my footsteps that click against the concrete ground. There is no other noise. I smell the last glimpse of rain that came over the numerous gigantic warehouses in the daytime before my night shift in number 22. Before me, I can now see a light that shines out against the void. The light reveals a hint at the warehouse. It looms over the yard, a sheer dark cliff. I feel like an ant crawling through a tunnel to the queen's nest. It absorbs me into its black grasp. I continue to walk, trying not to get fazed by the clutch of the dark, and reach out my hand to a small black side panel to the bottom left of the door, and a robotic voice pierces through the empty yard around me.
Hold, please.
I wait for a couple seconds, and a monotone buzz makes a small segment of the door shift apart, revealing a small tunnel-like room with only a meagre red light within. I walk to the centre where the robotic voice sparks up again as a small segment behind me pssts back into place.
Hold, please, for scanning. Scanning complete.
The robot chimes in and brings me into the brutalist hell of Warehouse 22. I walk into the opening for the main forecourt. The opening closed behind me. I stand out into the bleak warehouse. An empty forecourt awaits my glare. It's stopped by small office doors dotted around the walls. I glance upwards and see long walkways that hang over me, watching me like the CCTV cameras that fill in the corners of each wall. I'm sure I'm being studied by a redacted staff member locked away in the hub of redacted. I look to the middle of the warehouse. Everything stops. The doors, the walkways, and the walls cease to exist. They are replaced with a deep corridor that burrows its way in endlessly. There is a sign just as the wall cuts into the hallway. It reads, "Patient Holdings." My pace quickens and I scuttle to my little office that juts out into the forecourt on the left-hand side. It's covered in glass. The only solace from the potential peeping Tom are the blinds that I regularly pull down to allow for working and napping. I reach my office, put my hand on the doorknob, and the cold tickles my nerves. They keep the patients and me, if you can call me staff, to a nice 15 degrees. I open up my office door. Luckily for me, I pull out the small electric heater, which keeps my big toe a nice 21 degrees as I sit on a worn-away desk chair for these 9 long and lonesome hours. I turn on the monitor. It starts off in camera 1. It stares off into the corridor leading to the holdings of the patients. Patient number 15, standing at the steel prison bars looking into oblivion. Number 10, a young boy holds out the bars, a smile grinning across his face. It makes me give out an exhaustive dad's sigh, seeing such innocence behind bars. Number 25, not on the 2 CCTV cameras, probably hiding in a corner, writing 1s and 0s on the wall. Number 124, lying on the concrete looking up at the ceiling. Number 132, could be dead, but Ralph should have queried this before my shift. I stay on number 132, who is lying face down near the bars. I hold for 20 seconds, flicking to the second camera for a different angle. Patient number 132's arm moves slightly. That's good enough for me, I say to myself, breathing out a sigh of relief. Then I press the left arrow key to move on to patient number 3. He is pacing around, muttering to himself. I can't hear anything, as the money-greedy company I work for hasn't put in some microphones. I move on to patient number 145. She holds the bars with both hands and moves her eyes from left to right, always a crazy one in holding number 7. And she's the newest patient. The previous patient died from spontaneous combustion. That's what the higher-ups called it. Luckily, that was on the day shift. All I saw was a clean-up of blood and ash. I stare off into the monitor as I reimagine that day only 3 weeks ago, still fresh in my mind. So much blood. Number 145 looks at the camera straight towards my eyeline and into my soul. Her eyes burn through me as everything goes dark, except her searing stare. I somehow come back to the present though, spending what feels like hours in a daze. Patient number 145 is not staring at the CCTV anymore. Her eyes face the floor as her long black hair dangles in front of her. I push the left key onto number 128, looking pretty crazy, staring off into the wall in front. Back to normal. I exude a sigh of relief and move on to number 155, looking silent in there. Normally his mouth would be moving in inhumane angles and contortions. James normally tells me about number 155's grunts and snarls, the worst patient to walk past. But today, he's standing still and silent. I should bring that up with James, to see if he has noticed any changes. Thinking of James, I wonder which cell he has got to. I've done 10 out of possible 12 cells, and not a sight nor sound. I flick through number 112, staring, and then stop at number 77. James is there at the final holding. He has stopped at a 6-foot distance from the dark, shadowy figure of number 77, looming over the bars. James looks like he is entranced by number 77. I pick up my company radio from my desk and move the screen from the first extension, the redacted emergency services, and then to James, my second extension, and press the talk button. James, this is Matt, over. I see James jump in surprise and fumble around on his belt trying to get hold of his radio. He finds it and speaks into the black radio, but nothing comes out from my side. Press the talk button, you idiot, I think to myself. However, I see him holding the button down. Must be a signal problem, I think. I press the talk button again. Hello, James. I see you at patient number 77 on CCTV. It seems like you've got a bit of a wonky walkie-talkie there. You might need to ask the higher-ups to look at that. Over. James is looking intently at the walkie-talkie as I speak. He hits the radio with his palm, presses the talk button again, and my radio sparks on. I hear James's positive tones come through. Hello, Matt. I hope you can hear me now. It is very cold down in these wards. Very cold. But they aren't going to be checked by themselves, so it looks like a job for James Watcher Extraordinaire. I sigh at the enthusiasm. Now look, James. I'll be docking your pay as you didn't say over after your message. Do you read over? James looks at the radio, confused, as I speak. He waits for a couple seconds and presses the talk button. I'm only messing with you, James. Carry on with your tri-hourly stroll, over. I thought my satire came through loud and clear. I ponder as the radio crackles to life again. Sorry, the sarcasm must not be coming through the radio as it usually does, over. I knew it. Okay, James, happy travels, over and out. Okay, bye, over. James says before I can hang up. I drop the radio down onto the desk in front of me and begin reaching for a drawer to the left of my desk, which is labelled Matt's Personals. I open the drawer and bring out a picture of Stephanie, who's holding our son, Peter. I hold them up, staring into Peter's innocent eyes. I want to be in bed, my beautiful wife by my side, and the soothing, cute snores of Peter in the background. I wander off into my dreaming thoughts. I reach with my fingertips to touch them, but just get the cold glass of a picture frame. I put the picture onto the table in front of me. As soon as I place the stand onto the table, a piercing shriek clatters through the outside of my monitoring room. The shriek echoes throughout my surroundings and gets absorbed into the quiet of the warehouse. I stare off for a few moments, trying to process what I just heard. Then I glance towards the CCTV. There's nothing near to patient number 77. James, my thoughts pushes over to where he is. I check with James, grabbing my radio and pressing the button. James, are you okay, over? I say with a shortening breath. There is a harrowing silence as I wait for his response. Yes, all good here, just passing by patient number 145, over. I flick through the CCTV and pause at holding 7, where number 145 resides along with James, who is striding quickly past. I only see a glimpse of his lanky legs. He's going fast. Odd. Did you hear that shriek, over? Yeah, must have been patient number 77. He's crazy today, over. James says with a quickening breath and his shoes clicking against the concrete ground. You're walking quick, over. I flick to number 3. Number 3 looks out in horror at James, pulling his eyes open, his mouth opening in a freakish way. James takes long 4 bounding strides, and he's already at the other side of the hallway, not noticing the curly-haired patient staring back at him in shock on the other side of the steel bars. Yeah, it's freezing. Gonna head back and grab some coffee, over. Coffee, that sounds good. I'll meet you at the coffee station, over and out. The way James is walking through makes me hesitate from taking my first steps out to the forecourt. He passes both number 132 and number 124, just like number 3, not much a thought for their presence. Then he reaches number 25 and slows his pace to a stop, looks in the direction of the patient and walks too close. Maybe 25 said something. Something seems odd in James's behaviour today. I look down at the notepad to the left of the desk, where Ralph writes his changeover notes for the day shift, and the time in which Frank and James changes over. I read all the gubbins and stop at a title that says, James. I quickly glance up to the CCTV. James is frighteningly close to 25, who stands by the bars with a grin peeling up on his face. If James stood any closer, 25 could grasp him with his bony, chalk-ridden fingers. I look down at the notes, trying to keep the camera in peripheral vision. The note reads, First walk through the patient holdings goes smoothly by James. But he seems jittery and looks around at the CCTVs, constantly aware of their presence. I asked him at the coffee machine if he is okay. He keeps looking around the forecourt, saying, It's always watching. Matt, please keep an eye on him. For his second walk through, he seems not himself. I look up at the CCTV. James and 25 are peering into the lens, staring me down. 25 still has that grin, making his cheekbones poke out at every angle. The lines of muscle follow his curling smile. They get me in a trance, shutting my eyes off from anything around me except the pixels on my screen. The trance has finally broken, though, as James strides across 25's grinning stare. When James finishes his stride, 25 is gone. I look in stunned silence, my mouth agape, every hair and pimple pricked up. They are extremely sensitive to every movement in the cold, still air of the warehouse. James walks off the camera's vision. He is slower and more methodical than his long strides before 25. I leave the gaze of the camera and stare back down at the notes that Ralph left. It's always watching. Against the cries of my shaking nerves, I stand up away from the electric heater and curl my jacket around my body. Then I begin walking to the coffee machine, where I am supposed to meet my estranged co-worker. I regrettably reach the measly coffee station amongst the small doors, huddling the machine against the blank walls. I put a mug under the mug goes here sign and say to the cheap overpriced machine, Oat cappuccino, please.
1 moment, please.
The machine whizzes up and begins squeezing out the coffee content. I turn around to the empty void where James will come out from. My hand grasps a hold of the radio by my side, unconsciously squeezing it harder and harder, as I feel my eyes being sucked into the long, winding labyrinth, expecting to see the first glimpses of the striding man that glared at me with his blank and expressionless face.
Your coffee is ready.
The robot squeaks back, making me jump slightly. I quickly look around and see the mug with just a small black liquid finishing its descent into the warm brown contents of the mug. I look at my watch. 1:30 a.m. it says on its digital face. Time to get back to my desk. I think, wanting to get back to my safe little room. I grab my coffee and slowly turn around, looking into the patient's hallway once again. Slowly walking away, my eyes transfixed on the entrance. I slowly break the grip of the tendrils and look towards my office, goosebumps shivering my skin. I reach my office, open the door and sit back onto my chair with a loud, exhaustive sigh. Squeaks and cracks ripple from the chair as I shuffle forward to the desk. I begin flicking through the CCTV, starting with the first holding, patient 15, yet again, staring his eyes wider than when I saw him last, looking like he's just seen a ghost. I move on to patient number 10. He is standing. I can make out a grinning young boy's face, his hand on the bars swaying from left to right like a metronome. He stares out towards the wall, youthful ignorance still within him. He reminds me of... An electrical snap cuts through my line of thought. The lights and screen turn off, leaving me in complete and utter darkness. Another scream echoes throughout the prison, then disappears to somewhere probably better than here. I linger for a while in the darkness. What the fuck is going on? I must be in a dream. This is a figment of my imagination. I'm not here. I close my eyes, pinch myself, even slap myself, but I'm only left with the emptiness of reality. I scramble through my pockets, reach my radio and press the talk button. James, are you there? Over. I hastily say, my breath shallow. I hear nothing back. A minute lapses of eerie silence. James doesn't respond and I fumble through to the redacted emergency service station. Hello, this is Matt, monitoring guard from Warehouse 22. There has been a massive power outage. Over. Hello and welcome to the redacted limited call line. Please hold as we connect you with a supervisor. Hold! I shout out in frustration while strangling the radio. I ponder my life decisions for far too long at this moment, while a small jingle plays on the other end of the walkie-talkie. Hello, this is Redacted Limited. How may we help? Over. A chirpy woman calls through the radio. Hello, this is security guard Matt Trubinsky from Warehouse 22. There has been a power outage and my co-worker James is not responding. How may I proceed? Over. A long hold precedes my question. Hi Matt, I'm going to hand over to my supervisor. Please hold. The sound of the walkie-talkie thwacking against the wall surpasses the final words of the call operator. I put my head in my hands and give a long, exhausted sigh as the whole jingle rings through my office again. Hello, this is the communications supervisor. How may I help? A man's voice crackles over the radio. I push my chair in the relative direction I threw the radio in. When I reach the wall, I bend down to face the floor and begin patting the ground around the area and shuffle around little by little. Hello, Matt. Are you there? Over. The supervisor crackles a question through the radio, which gives me a hint to the position. Matt, come in. I reach the walkie-talkie as he calls out to me. Hello, Soup. This is Matt. Over. I say with a quickening breath. My lungs have been squeezed by my shuffled bent-over posture. Hi, Matt. It looks like the mains have been cut, and 4 out of 12 patient doors are open. I look around for a pen and paper, but realise darkness. He continues. In the bottom right drawer, there should be a flashlight. Pick that up, and then look for the drawer that says warehouse information. In that drawer, we'll have a warehouse map. You'll have to go to each patient cell and close them using the emergency key, which is also in the warehouse information drawer, before turning the power back on, as well as checking all the patients are in the cells, of course. I gulp at the prospect of escaped psychos. After all, here at Redacted, safety is number one. Do you understand, Matt? Over. I understand, Soup. A distant clatter bangs through the walls, shaking up my fears of death, suffering, change, pain, loss, loneliness, darkness, emptiness, and lunatics running through the insane asylum to reality. It's just warehouse noises, I pray in my thoughts. I take a deep breath, push my hand down my face, and carry on speaking. Which patients are free? Sorry, I mean which of the patients' doors are open? Over. I hear rustling of notes through the walkie-talkie.
25.
Crazy, I think.
3.
Crazy.
155.
Crazy.
And 77.
I'm gonna die. I begin to shuffle my way to the desk and bang my knee into the desk. I shout out a much-needed fuck into the emptiness of the warehouse. I begin patting the desk when I reach it, till the final drawer. Open it and reach in to find a flashlight. I turn it on and begin pointing the flashlight around the office. I think I'd much prefer not being able to see my killer. I look down at the desk. I stop and become absorbed by the picture of Stephanie and Peter. Their smiles drop a heavy emotional weight, which crashes into me. It shrinks me down into a mushy mess. I wouldn't be able to fight a fly, let alone 4 lunatics. I want to shrivel up into the warehouse and become part of the cold shell. Slowly regaining my composure, I take out the map and the emergency keys. I bend back up from my hobbled over stand. A shadowy figure is seen with the corner of my eye. It moves as the flashlight glances its shoulder. I freeze, stuck in place. I forget to breathe, my eyes wide. The fight or flight response sorely missed. After a few seconds lapse, I remember to gasp a breath and begin to reassure myself. It must have been a figment of my imagination. It doesn't do much, but it snaps me out and back into reality, and I reach for my radio with my shaking hands and relay what I have to Soup. I have the map, over.
Okay, patient 25 is holding number 3.
He says. Patient 25. Those gazing eyes flash up in my brain, feeling closer, and a stone bangs down into the pit of my stomach. I try to gulp away the stone, and it flows away just enough for me to circle down, holding number 3 on the map. The cold of the stone and the gaze still remains.
Patient 3, holding 6. Patient 155, holding 9. And 77, holding 12.
I circle the rest of the holdings on the map.
Okay, Matt, if you need me, I'll be on extension 3845.
I jot that down on the map.
Good luck, Matt. Godspeed, over.
Thanks, Houston, over. We pause for a second.
Okay, bye, Matt, over and out.
Bye. The radio crackles into silence before I can say over and out. I clip the radio onto my belt with very shaky hands, fumbling multiple times. I fold the map into my right pocket before standing up, the flashlight in my left hand. I push myself out of the rickety old desk chair and shuffle towards the door. I place my hand on the doorknob. I hesitate, now aware that I am going to be leaving the safety of this confined office. I could wait till help, but James is still in here. But it's potentially where he should be. Patient 25 or the others could be just outside of my glancing flashlight. I hesitate some more. I look back at the lifeless office space. What the fuck am I doing? I'm not cut out for this. I have a wife and a kid. I'm just going to leave the warehouse. I agree with my thoughts and begin leaving the office in a wave of cowardice bravery. I shut the door in a slow, deliberate manner, my breathing noticeable against the stillness. I turn towards the warehouse. Nothing is different. It's just as inhospitable as it has ever been. I point myself towards the exit and begin walking towards it with a brisk walk, my head firmly looking at the floor, trying not to look at anything directly. A great tactical move. What if James is still alive? I'll be leaving him to die. I'll definitely get fired for leaving such a secure warehouse so insecure. I leave these questions to ruminate as I reach the exit and try to open the door, but cannot. I scrape with my fingernails at every nook and cranny, but I'm unsuccessful. I glance over to the screen next to it that shines with bright red. It states, "Locked down till power is turned back on." Those monsters have locked me in here? What heartless bastards. I kick the door in frustration. My steel-capped boots ting against the metal, leaving an echoing noise that rattles along the wall. I turn back into the open warehouse. I better get a raise for this heroic shit. I begin with a resistance to walk back towards the coffee machine I was supposed to be mating James at. I reach the coffee machine. The flashlight hangs on the machine, which is now nothing but an old, pointless piece of metal with no power. I begin surveying the area before landing on the massive black abyss that lays await the portal between me and the patients. The tendrils suck me in again, just like it did a couple hours ago. I look up to the balconies above, searching for potential movement, but only see the slow creak of the looming warehouse. I take a deep breath, hanging on the balconies, before moving back down to the hallway in front of me. I haven't noticed any movement nor shadows since leaving my confines. I rummage around in the lint-filled pocket of my left side and find a small crumpled-up photo of Stephanie and Peter. They look towards me as a ray of hope and light in the oppressive darkness. A swell of tears slightly obscure my vision. I reluctantly put the photo back in my pocket, sniffle up my tears, take a deep breath, and begin walking into the hall that awaits.